Patients to be stretched a little bit. We're about at the halfway point right now. From this point on, we're going to have Professor LaBerge speak, then I'll speak, and we'll enjoy food. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Professor Tom LaBerge.
Well, we'll be talking about my class, which is Financial Economics 588. I also teach in the spring Financial Economics 589. I'm going to talk about the purpose of the class, and I'm going to talk about the CFA designation, because they do dovetail together. And I'm just curious, how many people in the room have heard about the CFA designation, or know what it stands for, or anything about it? Just have a handful? Well, the CFA Institute, the CFA designation, and what you'll find is all of these slides and my syllabus is inside what Nancy handed out. We're about the midway point. You can either follow. CFA designation stands for Chartered Financial Analyst. And this is their statement to lead investment profession globally by setting the highest standards of ethics, education, and professional education. The CFA designation has become a necessity for attainment of career growth, career attainment in our industry, in the investment management industry. So I'd like to show you the types of jobs that a typical CFA would own. It's the investment management's designation is similar to a CPA for an accountant. Who's heard of what a CPA is, right? So the CFA designation is all about knowledge, all about execution. The most common occupations for CFA charter holders would be Chief Executive Officer, Chief Investment Analysis, Equity Analyst, Fixed Income Analyst, Investment Banker, and Portfolio Manager. I would say that those are the largest numbers that have the CFA designation. I can tell you from a practical standpoint in our industry, if you are working for if you're having one of these jobs, if you are 45 years or younger, 45 years old or younger, you either have your CFA designation or you're getting your CFA designation. That's all there is to it. If you want to be in this industry, if you want to go further, if you want to become a portfolio manager, an analyst, you will earn this. So we have an opportunity here to learn about the investment business, learn about how to analyze stocks, and hopefully, at your choice, if you want to, I'm hopefully going to prepare you to at least sit for the CFA Level 1 exam after taking our courses. So you have an opportunity to double dip, get your college credits, and also possibly earn this designation. The typical companies that employ CFAs, mutual fund managers, brokerage investment companies, investment management counselors to some extent. The last 29 years, I've been a portfolio manager for Merrill Lynch and managed money for them here in Williamsville, New York. Unfortunately, in Buffalo, New York, there's probably not a tremendous amount of jobs in that particular area, but most of the CFA jobs would be in the big money centers, New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Miami. That would be where the jobs are at. That's where the money is managed. So these are the companies that typically hire. Department of Labor, Occupational Outlook Handbook recommends the CFA certification for pursuing careers as financial analysts and personal financial advisors. I agree with the first half of that sentence. As far as being an analyst, yes, you will need this. If you are more towards working with individual clients, then maybe the certified financial planning route might be a better way to go. But types of jobs that are available look something like this. Here we have this company, Laxey Partners. This is a hedge fund. So how many here at least know what a hedge fund is? All right, so hedge fund collects money from private investors and invests it hopefully for a positive return. So they hire chartered financial analysts to research what companies or what investments they're going to make, be placed inside the hedge fund. Here's a job with the United Nations Pension Fund. And they're saying CFA certification or CFA designation is desirable. Well, what this job's all about is that there's $32 billion in the United Nations defined benefit pension plan. And somebody and a team of people have to manage that money. So who are they going to choose? They're going to choose people with an economics background, a financial background, and a CFA designation. And I'm saying to you again, the people that are there either have the CFA designation or are trying to get it. Okay? Abu Dhabi Investment Authority. Here we have a senior credit analyst, senior portfolio manager, emerging market debt. So here we have two credit analysts positions. So what they're doing is they're hiring financial analysts to look at the financial statements of emerging market companies or other companies across the world, maybe the developed market, and is the bond that we can possibly purchase, is it a good price, and are we going to get paid? Will the company default? Will the investment default? So, credit analysts. UBS Switzerland. Here we have a real estate investment and equity analyst looking for a CFA charter. So what this position is an analyst that is looking at real estate investment trusts, stocks, researching them, determining whether they're a good or a bad investment, and then recommending them to the portfolio managers for the inclusion in a portfolio. Every morning at Merrill Lynch when I go to work, there is a live broadcast from New York City. So there'd be a room somewhat like this, but it's broadcasted to all of the offices. And each day they will bring up about 5 analysts, 5 equity analysts. So they might have the auto analyst. The auto analyst will come up and speak on 5 or 6 different companies, or maybe 2 or 3 different companies. Or maybe that day there's news on Ford, and that person will talk on Ford. And they're making recommendations to all the investment advisors and all the portfolio managers. So we're listening to what the person has to say. We're reading their research reports. Typically, the analysts will study, I'd say usually on average, 6 or 7 companies. They'll be responsible for 6 or 7 companies within one industry. So similar companies. So they'll get up and give their presentation or read their reports. They're responsible for monitoring these 6 or 7 companies and making recommendations buy, sell, hold to the field. Now, I have earned my CFA designation as a portfolio manager, and it's my choice to listen to their recommendations and build portfolios for the clients. So, both jobs require the CFA for huge help. Here we have New York City Office of the Comptroller. We have another defined benefit plan. So you have your city employees, your fire and police departments. They have a defined benefit plan. The defined benefit plan is, and they're starting to go away, but in the old days, people would work for a company, all right? They'd work there for 30 years, and when they retired, they'd get a gold watch, and they'd get a stream of money for the rest of their life. Right? And the goal of the company was if they retired at 65, the company would hope they might die at 66. You're supposed to laugh a little at that. You know, but it's like Social Security. When Social Security was first started in the 30s in the United States, the first time you could collect the benefit was at age 65. And life expectancy for a male was 66. So I'm not too far off. So that's a defined benefit plan, monthly payments. Well, anyways, there's $32 billion there that has to be funded each year, and money has to be paid out to the retirees. They need somebody to make those investment choices. They're going to look for people with a finance background and CFA designation. The reason these, can anyone guess why defined benefit plans are starting to go away, or there's fewer of them?
The 401k is becoming more popular because it's less burden on the employer.
Absolutely. The 401ks are taking the place. 401k is a defined contribution plan where the employee puts the money in, takes the investment risk, but the money's there. And that's becoming more popular today because the defined benefit plans, the company puts the money in, the company takes the investment risk, and then makes the distributions out. But when the employee dies, the money stays in the pot. Again, just like Social Security. Well, all of a sudden people started to live till they're 70, 80, 90 years old, and there's fewer and fewer companies that want to take the investment risk. However, there's still money, so it's going to take investment managers to manage those 401k plans and the mutual funds that the money's going into. So it's just going from one pot, to another. So another job there. Then we have, what do I get here? World Bank, senior investment officer, senior asset allocation specialist. There's about 100,000 members as of a couple of years ago. There's 136 societies. In Buffalo, we have the Buffalo Society of CFA. It would be probably a good idea for you to look at their website. They have monthly meetings where they'll bring in investment speakers. I would familiarize yourself with that website. Again, you can Google Buffalo Society of CFA. Also, you should familiarize yourself with the CFA main website, and you'll find it in the handout. Now, in 1993 to June 2008, look at the candidate makeup. So it's gone heavily from U.S. to non-U.S. It's still male, even with an increase. The average age is 31 years old. 30 years old. So I fit that profile pretty much when I took my CFA. I was in my 30s, married, had 3 kids, full-time job, come home on weekends, kids would be crying, try to get them to sleep, try to study for the CFA. All right? Definitely not easy. It's definitely not easy. Oh, furthermore, at age 30, you've forgotten everything you've learned back in college. You forgot how to do standard deviation and all that kind of stuff, right? But I don't know how old you guys are, but you're younger. We'll say on average you're younger than 30. So you haven't forgotten how to do standard deviation. You're going to be able to kill the competition on the quantitative stuff, right? Where a 30-year-old with 7 years, 8 years experience is going to beat you is on the day-to-day practical investment knowledge that you're going to need to pass these tests. And one of the goals of my class is to teach you about the day-to-day stuff that's going on in the marketplace, just like Professor Dr. Chang mentioned. I'd like to spend 15 to 20 minutes per day on what's going on in the investment market. I require, as you see in the syllabus, that you'll know certain statistics, like what the LIBOR rate is, what the S&P is, what the 30-year Treasury bond is. And I want, current numbers. Like, I would be embarrassed if someone asked one of my students, well, what's the Dow right now? Or somewhere near it, and one of our students couldn't answer that question. So we're getting to the point where you're just about ready to go out there and work and make money and manage people's dollars. We got to know this stuff. So my goal is to try to teach the real stuff that's going on, where that 30-year-old has an advantage over you because they've been doing it every single day, right, for the past 8 years. So that is one of the reasons for, all right, the 3-year self-study program. 3 successive courses if you pass all 3 levels. Self-study. But again, you get an opportunity to double dip because you're going to be taking my class, which will dovetail with the questions on the CFA exam, and you're going to be getting your UB credits for economics. So what do we have? We have 3 levels. Knowledge and comprehension of fundamental investment tools and concepts, applications, and level 3, putting it all together. Ethical and professional standards are emphasized at every level. The tests for all 3 levels are June each year. So about the first week in June. So if everything went your way and everything went perfect, you could take level 1 in June 2011, 2012, and 2013. You do the 3 rounds. You obviously must pass level 1 to sit for the level 2 exam. There is a level 1 exam in December, and many people try, full of confidence to do the December exam, level 1, and the level 2 exam in June. Okay? They don't have a December level 2 exam. They don't have a December level 3 exam. The level 1 they offer in December and June. I would highly recommend that you do not do that. I think it's too big of a challenge. I think that it's too much to cram in 4 months. And it will also harm you in taking level 2. So you might win the battle and pass level 2, or pass level 1 in December, fail level 2, in June, and then you're back where you were anyway. I firmly believe in getting a firm foundation with level 1 and spending the entire year. Ethical and professional standards. I've been doing this for about 4 years now, and where I find the weakness of the students is in 2 major areas. One is ethical and professional standards, and that's not to say that students are unethical. It's just that the ethics questions are wordy, and they have a story to them. So you have to read the story, and then you have to find out what's wrong. What went wrong in the story? The answers on level 1 are multiple choice, but you have to read the story. And in order to read the story, you have to know who the players are. Like, a portfolio manager did insider trading. Well, you have to know what a portfolio manager is, what their role is, to be able to answer the question. And maybe that's an oversimplistic question, but I spend a lot of times on the ethics. It is dry and boring. We do it at the end of the year. But we must follow through it because you can't pass the test without it. You cannot pass the test without passing the ethics. As a matter of fact, marginal papers, people that are right on the borderline of passing, where they've done everything else, and there's some question on whether or not they're in or not. If they did well on ethics, often you can get a pass. If they did poor on ethics, you're probably going to get the thumbs down. So I spend time there. The other area of weakness or difficulty is on the accounting side. So I spend this particular class on a great deal on financial statement analysis. The goal of the class at the end is for you to write a research report, a quality research report. present to the class the following research report, not to the extent of your paper. Your paper will probably be about 10 pages long, but your presentation to the class is hopefully no more than 10 minutes. The value of that to the students is you're going to learn everything there is to know about that company, and then you're going to listen to 22 other people, and you're going to learn a little bit about 22 companies. Because when all is said and done, if you're in the investment business, if you're a portfolio manager, a hedge fund manager, a pension manager, defined benefit pension manager, you're going to have an understanding or a mental knowledge of about 300 to 400 different companies at any given time. You're going to know about these companies. You're going to be looking at them, reading about them. You may only be analyzing 5 or 6. If you're an analyst, you're going to know about a bunch of other companies. If you're a portfolio manager, you're going to have to know a little bit about them all. The other thing, how do they come up with this test? How do they come up with the test? What they do generally is CFA board sends out questionnaires to all the CFA members that are in industry. So each year I will get a questionnaire. The questionnaire is detailed, and the goal of the questionnaire is to ask me questions about what it takes, what skill set is necessary to do my job. All right? You with me? You're going to send me questions. What is the skill set? What are the tools necessary for someone to do what I do for a living? They'll also be asking that to the other 91,000 people. When they get all of the data and crunch it, they come up with a body of knowledge, which turns into the curriculum, and then the curriculum is where they will get the multiple choice questions from to ask you on level 1. So I don't know if this slide's super important. They started this process in 2008. It's a continuous process of what it takes to do our job. So if you're taking this class and you prepare for the CFA exam, you're learning what is necessary to do our job. You are definitely getting on-the-job training, except we're not paid. So, CFA body of knowledge, quantitative methods. My experience is that I don't spend a great deal of time on a quant. For the most part, you are better at that than I am. Quantitative methods that you probably need a little help with is sometimes they will ask a question like, a person is 30 years old, they want to retire in 25 years, we can assume a 6% rate of return, how much they need $2 million to retire, how much do they put away each year? Questions like that. We don't spend a great deal of time on that. I know that you can crank those numbers out. Economics you should be pretty good at. I would hope that I've never covered economics in any of the classes I taught. But at the end of the year, sometimes we'll get together before the June test, after school's over, and we'll take an old CFA test and kind of go over questions. In my experience, the students don't really have a problem. They do have a problem here. Financial reporting and analysis, equity investments, fixed income, derivatives, alternative investment, portfolio management, and, like I said, the ethics. The CFA body of knowledge and the questions, what you're going to find is they're not super difficult questions. Level 1 is not that deep, but it's like a mile wide. It's an incredibly broad spectrum of questions. It takes somebody very mentally and physically fit to take that test. All right? So, again, you're at the right age to try to do it. It takes somebody you're in a room for 6 hours taking answering 240 questions, and you will get brain numb doing it. Breakdown, this tells you what the breakdown is of the 3 levels. Here's the bad news. Pass rate, 39%. Candidate pass rate of 39% for level 1. That's what it's been for about the last 30 years. And I think a passing grade somewhere around 70% of questions. So everybody in this room is probably used to getting like 100s on every single paper you've ever done in your life, all right? And, you know, top of your class and all that you've done, super, super intelligent. I teach the class at one level, and I grade the class at another level. I think I have, if someone's going to take the CFA exam and spend the money for it, because it's not cheap, I have a moral obligation to teach up here, right? But then there's people in the class that aren't going to take the test, and I need to grade around there. So what I mean to say is there's times I've passed out tests, not to be a bad person, very, very difficult. I'll try to tell the people who's on the test. I'll make the test hard, CFA level hard, and we might come in with a 55, which might be a good grade, right? And why do I do that? So that when you get your test back, you look at it and say, okay, I'm weak on this area. So that's where we're at on that. The pass rates do increase, but that's because you get a lot of people that quit after level 1. By the time you get to level 3, it's the people that really want to do it. So I'm certain that level 1 people get the books and don't even open them and don't even bother going to the test. Okay, that's what the pass rate might be, 39%. So not important. There's register online, CFA, or download the forms. So how does this all, when you become a CFA charter holder, sequentially pass the 3 tests. You don't have to do them in 3 consecutive years. I think you have up to 6 years to pass. 4 years of acceptable work experience and references, and you have your designation. So that's about it there. Now what I'd like to do this is the syllabus. Now it says 488 and 588 because we do offer it at the 400 level. They just have a different set of requirements. But I just want to show you that. I try to take the questions from typical CFA questions. I want people to know current market value data. And like I said, I do spend about 20 minutes per day on the current market data. Generally what we'll do is we'll review a research report for some company. And I'll show you how someone else has written a report. Here's the textbook. International Financial Statement Analysis by Robinson. Now there's also a class here that I would recommend that you take if you want to take this crack, and that would be Economics 504, which is also called Financial Statement Analysis. Again, mine is Financial Economics. But I'm teaching you more from the standpoint of how an analyst would look at a report. So you can get the book wherever you can get it. I use this company called Swayzer. They have a set of slides for $59. There's about 1,500 slides, and each slide is one learning outcome statement, one one statement of fact that a person would need to know. That is, how about this? That each slide represents a possible exam question. Okay? Each slide has data on it that's a potential question to be asked, or a series of slides. So the $59 slide book's probably worth it. It's about 1/3 the cost because they would give you a break. It is used in my class. I do not post these slides on UB Learns because they're copyright protected. So either buy them. Here's the portal. You can use it, and the slides are good for both my 588 and 589. If a person wants to enroll in the current year CFA exam, you do not need to purchase the textbook. But I would give this some serious thought. I would go to the class for a couple of weeks, try to get a feel for what this is all about before you make the investment, because it is going to be, you know, a significant dollar investment. The other thing with me is I'm really big on this copyright stuff. Like my slides are copyrighted from Swayzer. And if I found someone copying them, stealing data, I would be very, very upset. So far, no one is, it's not that bad. To take my class, to learn how to do the financial statement analysis, you definitely do not have to take the CFA exam. I don't mean to imply that. So you can certainly take the class without taking the test. Again, the CFA is somewhat outside of UB. My class is inside UB, so it's not a requirement. The core project is that students will produce a high-quality company research report. For a master's student, I would expect the report to be about 10 pages. 8 pages, 8 to 10. I will give you a template, and you're going to fill the numbers in and write the body of it. And then, like I said, a 5 to 10 minute PowerPoint presentation on the company to present to us a 10-minute buy, sell, or hold recommendation. I'll assign, or I'll give you a list of companies to choose from. So there'll be about 50, 60, 70 companies you can choose from. They're typically large capitalization, S&P 500 type companies. So big names. And that's what the statement should look like. We're going to look at common size income statement and balance sheet, DuPont analysis, return on equity, 3-year trend, cash conversion cycle. That's the stuff I'm looking for. So now there's another reason you should take my class, and that's because I've had 4 students get married. I've been invited to 2 weddings. So I don't really know what the connection is between the economics and people getting married in my class, but I like going to weddings. I've been to like 1 each year. So this is what we'll be doing. I start off with the introduction next week. I'll take a Dell computer 10K report and go over it. Show you what the numbers are. Show you where we get the numbers. UB is fabulous at the databases that they have. And getting into the UB library online and looking at the Standard & Poor reports, I can't tell you how much money that would cost if you had to buy it. So you have investment quality research at your fingertips, so you should be able to do a good job on this. And again, I know that you probably have taken an accounting class and understand what a balance sheet, and cash flow, and financial statement or income statement is. We just look at it from a different way. We look at it from a comparative analysis. We have 2 companies. How do you compare the 2? Which is the better value? Which is at the best price? So we have a saying in our industry, when it comes to bonds or stocks. There really isn't any bad stocks or bonds. There's only bad prices. So you can have a beautifully looking financial statement, but if the company's price is too high, it's certainly not a good investment. Would you agree with that? So sometimes the best companies are priced at a level, and the difference with this class is what are we paying for this company, and how does it compare, and is it a good deal? And the frustrating thing with our job is that if you do all of this work and you're thorough, you're going to be wrong about 40% of the time. Okay? So you're not going to understand it. You took all the class, you did all the quad, you did this, and it didn't work. So in this particular class, we do focus on the companies. My next class, 589, we focus on the bigger picture. We focus more on portfolio management. Like, let's take these companies, let's put them in a package, let's manage it. We have a very nice virtual simulator, market simulator. So I ask you to build a portfolio, monitor the portfolio, and have this portfolio be consistent with a hypothetical client's risk profile and risk tolerance. So you're the investment manager. I don't grade on how well the portfolio did over how long is a semester, 3 months, 4 months. I don't really believe that that's fair. That's, in a lot of ways, it's more luck than skill on a 4-month basis. Although you'll find you'll be very competitive with each other trying to win, because I do post the amounts. We give everybody a hypothetical $1 million and let them build a portfolio. What I'm more interested in, can you build a portfolio consistent with what the client wanted? And taking 588 is good because you're going to listen to 25 stock presentations and you'll determine whether you want to include them in your portfolio next semester. So we have fun. We have a good time. I enjoy it very, very much. I've gotten great ideas from students. And at the end, last 2 weeks, I start doing the CFA. So that's about all I had. Any questions on this? You can save questions for me later because I can smell the pizza. So, we all set?
Right. Thank you, Professor Levert. Okay, the last 2 things. I'm going to introduce the EGSA president, Anu, and then I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the logistics of the program, and then we're going to eat. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Economics Graduate Student Association president, Anu. Tom is also going to stick around, he said, for pizza and stuff like that, so if you have questions about the CFA, he can answer those after the presentation.
How's everyone doing? My name is Anu. I am the EGSA president. I've just appointed it for this semester. It's my first semester. I just kind of want to continue on what everyone has been telling you guys. You made a great decision coming to UB. This is a really great program. The people here are so helpful. There's been so many questions I've had. Last semester was my first semester. Just talking to professors, talking to Matt, everyone has been absolutely great. So, what Dr. Schenk said was really, really important. He said that, the one thing that you guys need to do is network. Kind of leave your, your comfort zone and meet new people. And this is a great opportunity for you guys to do that. So, next Friday we have the first economics barbecue. So I encourage everybody to come out there, meet people and get involved. This is really a great, great program. You guys are going to have, honestly, a really good time. As much of a good time as you can have with school. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. Also, there is one position I think available in EGSA. It's a secretary position. So, if anyone is interested in getting involved and meeting new people, and it looks great on a resume also, please feel free to join EGSA. All right. So look forward to meeting all of you, and I hope that doesn't take too much of your time. Okay, I'm going to give you the quick version of
this handy-dandy packet. I'm going to do it in 12 minutes. So, after I'm done, if you haven't registered for classes, I can help you register for classes. And you can always change it on your own in the computer. So, I'm going to go through this kind of fast, but I will stick around as long as possible to answer any questions that you have. Okay. Most of you are familiar with the economics website. You've been on it, you kind of understand it. The most important site, I think, at this point for you to look at is the current student info page, which, if you haven't already, whether you click on MA or MS, it really doesn't matter. Under current student info, there's a lot of resources there. This is kind of where a one-stop shop with all the things you kind of need to know. So feel free to peruse that at your leisure. Some students still need to get their BA transcripts to me, and I'm only really referring to domestic students here. International students submit their bachelor's degrees, completed bachelor's degree directly to international admissions. If you're a domestic student who graduated in June or September and did not already have their conferral before now, you would need to submit that to me. When you walked in, you should have signed up on the sign-in form with the correct Buffalo email address and mailing address so I can include it in the listserv. I email all master students usually once a week, so it's very important that I have your current email address. That's my main source of communication for you. You have until the second week of classes to add and drop courses. That's Friday, September 10th. Something that's very important. If you drop from below 12, like if you go from 12 to 9 credits, you would be penalized. I wanted to bring your attention really quick to about halfway through. There's a page that looks sort of like this. It says at the top, September 2010. It looks kind of like this. You'll see August 2010 and September 2010. This is from the Student Response Center website. You want to familiarize yourself with penalties if you add and drop courses. If you drop from 15 to 12, you're not penalized. If you drop from 18 to 15, you're not penalized. But if you drop from 12 to 9, you would be penalized. If you have specific questions about penalties, please contact the Student Response Center, which is located in 232 Capon. The overview of the MA program. You have your 5 core classes, the micro, macro, econometrics 1 and 2, and topics in micro. Then you have 5 elective courses. It's this page after my presentation. At the top, it's about 3 or 4 pages in. It says MA General Program Requirements. It looks kind of like this. It's about 3 or 4 pages in. At the top, it says MA General Program Requirements. So you have your 5 core classes that you need, and then you have 5 electives. Out of those 5 electives, 2 of them can be outside the department. Well, you're probably wondering what classes can I use outside the department, and if you look on the other side of that sheet, it lists all the classes, and this is also on the website, all the classes that can be used towards the department. Many of these courses you can register on your own. The exception is management classes. If you are interested in registering for a management class for this semester or any other semester, there's a form that you have to submit to me, and it's actually in the packet as well, and it just looks like that. You don't have to get to it now. There's a form included in your packet, and it's also available online. This is only for management classes, if you're interested in taking a graduate management class. So you have your 5 core, your 5 electives, and then you have your micro macro comp exam for 30 credits, and that's the MA program. The MA plus the advanced certificate program. After the page with the MA and the MA electives, you'll see, it's kind of hard to depend where your staple is, but you'll see the MA plus the advanced certificate program in financial, and then if you turn the page, it's the MA plus advanced certificate in international. Those 2 programs are laid out because those are our 2 most popular concentrations. If you're interested in any of our other 4 advanced certificates, you need to see me because we would need to work on a plan, because some of those classes aren't offered as regularly as the financial and international economics. So for the MA and advanced certificates, the 5 core plus the 5 electives, which is the MA in itself, plus your 5 advanced certificate classes. Why should you consider doing the advanced certificate? In a nutshell, the more skills you have, the more marketable you are. Do you need to declare your concentration if you're doing an advanced certificate? No. You take the MA required classes and the advanced certificate classes concurrently. Can you do 2 concentrations? Like, can you do the MA plus 2 advanced certificates? The answer is yes, but it's a minimum of 60 credits. So you have your MA plus your 15 credits for financial economics, for example, plus another 15 for your international economics. You'll see that some courses might be counted both towards international and financial, or another concentration. You cannot double dip. So if you're planning on doing 2 advanced certificates plus your MA, minimum of 60 credits. The MS program, 7 core. The financial economics 1 should also be listed there. 505, 507, 580, 581, 582, 561, and 526. It's actually also listed on the next page where it says MA Financial Economics. They list the 4. All this is also on the website. I apologize, I'm going a little bit fast. The 3 tracks you can choose from, you also have to take your micro-macro comp exam for a total of 45 credits. For the MS, you would have been notified 2 semesters of calculus by the end of your first semester in the MS. Now, you might have started and been admitted to the MA, and then you could decide and set up your first semester to mimic either the MA or the MS, if you're not sure. So you have the flexibility, as long as you have the calculus, to switch from MA to MS, or conversely, from MS to MA after your first semester. Now, a lot of times people ask me, which is better, the MS or MA? Some people just like the sound of an MS. You know, they think, oh, you know, the MS is so much better, I'm going to get more jobs. Not necessarily. It kind of depends upon the work that you're looking for. One thing that I would advise you to do when you're looking for jobs is to look at the postings. And what I mean by that is qualifications and requirements. This is what you really want to look for. What is it? What are the requirements for the job? Because it doesn't say specifically MA or MS. It'll specifically say, you know, we're looking for concentrations. These are the skills that we're looking for. You know, requirements here, economics degree, you know, some SAS. But that's really what you really want to focus on. So if it's the MA and the skill set for the MA makes more sense for you, for the kind of job you're looking for, then you should pursue the MA. If the MS has the skill set that you're looking for, then maybe you should focus on the MS. And that's why I try to encourage students, even before looking at our program and while they're in our program, to look at the job descriptions and assess the skills that are required, and then bridge the gap between what you maintain as far as your skill set goes to what the positions are looking for. And if you're not sure what the skill sets are, you know, talk to career services, talk to faculty, talk to students. What classes should you take the first semester? Most of you are going to take your micro, macro, and econometrics 1 your first semester, if you don't get waived out of econometrics 1. As far as the other 2 electives or other elective is concerned, like Dr. Cheng had said, experiment with classes. On this page, it shows the Fall 10 master's classes. It's after the MS International Economics program. This is the listing of classes. Now, most of you probably wouldn't have understood what Practicum in Financial Economics 1 was unless Tom spoke and described a little bit about his class. A title of a class may not be a good indicator of what the class is really about. We have course descriptions online through our website, but what I'm trying to encourage you to do is actually physically go to the class. You know, we have course descriptions online and there's sample syllabi here. But you might be doing yourself an injustice by not attending a class you may be interested in. Like, you may think labor economics, I'm not interested in it, but you might want to go to the class and say, wait a minute, I attended the class, this has totally changed my perspective of what I thought labor economics was. So what I would encourage you to do is to go to different classes. Even if you go to class and waste 30 minutes of your time, at least you have a better understanding about what the class is. Because a lot of times students kind of regret not taking the class or something that might be more interested in just because of a title of a course. And if you have questions about a course, contact the professor or just simply go through the first 2 weeks of class experimenting with the types of classes you might be interested in. How do you register for management classes? You need to submit a form. How many classes can you take a semester? We advise no more than 5 classes. We know we advise no more than 5 classes. For some of you, you can handle 5 classes. Some of you may handle 6 classes, and I think that's great. But if you ask me how many classes you should take, I'm going to tell you I don't know. I can't assess, and I'm not in a position to be an assessor for your abilities. You need to go to the classes and say, I'm comfortable with 4 classes, or I'm comfortable with 5 classes. But you're going to be the person that's going to decide that after going to the classes and assessing what the coursework is like. So we don't advise any more than 5 classes, but we know some students do take 6 classes. If you want to take more than 6 classes, which we don't advise, you would need an override. And that happens very, very rarely, and it usually does not happen for a first semester student. How many classes can I take outside the economics department? If it's towards the MA degree, it's 2. For the MS, it's 3. And there's specific classes for the MS. When can I add drop courses? For fall 2010. That's Friday, September 10th. And that schedule is also on that, where it was at the top. It said August and then September deadlines. So all those deadlines are there. Comprehensive exam. Nobody in this room is going to be taking the September comp exam because you haven't taken the 505 or 507. The earliest you can take it is in spring 2011. It's given 3 times a year. January, February, May, June, and then September, October, somewhere around there. So they are offered 3 times a year. And if you cannot graduate unless you pass the exams, and if you fail a section of the exam 3 times, you are dismissed from the program. And then people will ask, well, that's not real, is it? I met all my requirements and, I failed. You'll give me something, right? No, you will not graduate your degree if you do not pass your comp exam in 3 tries. Internships. 1 credit or 3 credit. Specific 3 credit internships can only be used towards specific advanced certificate. A 3 credit internship cannot be used toward the MS. Independent study. Independent study is when you work with a professor individually on a topic. So, for example, we don't have a course on the economic impact of gambling in the United States. But let's say you're interested in doing something like that. You can ask a professor to sponsor research on a specific topic that you might have in mind. Now, there isn't one formula for independent study. What one person does for independent study with one professor may be vastly different than what another person does for their independent study. It's an agreement between the professor and the student. But it's also a nice opportunity as well to further your knowledge, and especially on something that you might be interested in. I tell students sometimes it's a nice way to maybe parlay that for a future job. For example, let's say you're interested in working for the Federal Reserve. Maybe working with a professor to do some research on the Federal Reserve as an independent study, then use that research as part of your job search. And I can talk more about independent study for those interested. Course waivers. The course waivers can only be obtained with prior approval from Dr. Chang. There's a course waiver form on the website. Under this section of MA, it says academic forms, and you'll find all kinds of forms. But the top one will say course waiver form. And a course waiver form needs to be filled out for each class other than the waiver exam for ECO 580. So it's pretty kind of explains what you need to submit in order to get a course waiver. Now the question is, does a course waiver mean I do fewer credits? The answer is no. A waiver means you're not responsible for a required class. You do not need a waiver for an elective class. You only ask for waivers for required classes. So, if you waive a class, you still need to do 30 credits for the MA or 45 credits for the MS or the advanced certificate. And so some people ask, well, what's the point of a waiver? The point of a waiver is not to replicate stuff you're already good at. You're not gaining anything, and there's no value to you to repeat something you already have proficient knowledge in. Otherwise, you're just paying for replication. Now that's each person's choice. We don't mandate waivers by any means, but I try to encourage students, especially if they have a proficient knowledge in a certain subject and they're just repeating something, to obtain a waiver. And you can talk to Dr. Chang if you've got specific questions about what kind constitutes a waiver under what conditions. The Econometrics 1 waiver exam is Friday, September 3rd at 3 o'clock, 424 Fronzak. You would need to email me if you're interested in taking the waiver exam. I sent people in my email what would be covered, the Wanacott books. And if you have questions, you can contact me. If you're interested in waiving Econometrics 2, you need to see Dr. Ivankar. The application to candidacy, nobody's graduating in February of next year, so you don't need to worry. The important part here is that you just want to be mindful of the deadlines that I need you to submit paperwork. So if you plan on graduating next June, there's paperwork that I'm going to need from you in January of next year. Graduate school policies. This is important, and I don't know what percentage of students actually reads it, but I always include it on the first day. This is the graduate school policies and procedures. It's at the back of the manual. You may decide to never look at it again, and that's completely fine, but it's your responsibility, okay? If you're attending a school, especially if you're not familiar with the rules, it's very important to familiarize yourself with graduate school policies and procedures. If you were an undergrad and attended UB, the policies aren't necessarily the same. And especially what I'm referring to is a repeat policy. So if you're not familiar and as an undergrad and taking graduate school, the policies are not necessarily the same. Degree conferrals, 3 times a year, we confer degrees. Full-time status, if you have tuition scholarships, student loans, or an international student taking less than 12 credits, you need to fill out full-time status. This is usually in your last semester. Academic integrity, I'm not going to belabor the point. You're in graduate school. There are academic rules and integrity that you need to adhere by. So, if you are caught violating the academic integrity policies at the university, there's graduate schools and policies that would be followed in such case. The grading system, some of you this is a new grading system for you. It's an A through F system, and you can see how it looks. A 3.0 GPA must be maintained throughout the program and in order to graduate. So let's say you do your first semester and you have lower than a 3.0 your first semester. Are you kicked out of the program? No. You're not dismissed from the program. You are placed on warning. If after the second semester you have less than 3.0 again, depending upon the situation, Dr. Chang may or may not decide how to pursue each individual case. The point here is you want to maintain your 3.0 GPA. And in order to graduate from the program, you have to have a 3.0 for the courses that you're using towards your degree. So if you get a 2.998, and I guarantee you this has happened, you will not graduate from the program. You must have a 3.0 for the classes that you're using toward your degree in order to graduate. Incomplete grades, I'm not going to get too much into. It just means that sometimes in situations, for medical emergencies, family emergencies, that an incomplete grade is taken. And that's between you and the professor. It's not up to the student to decide incomplete, it's up to the professor. I mentioned the calculus, the working knowledge of 1 year for MA students, and MS students must have the equivalent of a full year. If you don't have it or you want to learn how to obtain a full year, please talk to me. Undergraduate courses. Undergraduate courses cannot be used towards the master's economics degree. You're welcome to take undergraduate courses though, but they won't count towards a degree. Now you may ask yourselves, well, why would I want to take an undergraduate economics course? We have students who want to pursue PhD programs, but their math is lacking. So sometimes what they do is they take graduate economics courses and they also take undergraduate math classes. But undergraduate math classes don't count towards the degree. If you're taking graduate math classes, as long as they're on the approved list, those would count towards the degree. But it's very important to understand that undergraduate classes do not count towards your master's economics degree. If you have questions about that, please let me know. Additionally, some students, in an effort to improve their English skills, they take English Language Institute classes. And that's perfectly fine by us, but again, those cannot be used towards a master's economics degree. Logistical items. Every person who's a new student has an academic mailbox in 426 Fronzak. Sometimes professors will leave things for you. Sometimes the student you're working with will leave an assignment for you. Please note that's not for your personal mail. So if you're sending credit cards to that mailbox, we cannot accept responsibility for that. So I advise you not to use the department as far as personal mail is concerned. If because we cannot be responsible for students' personal mail, only academic mail of nature. The lounge, which you'll find in 426 Frontenac also, is mailboxes, refrigerator, photocopier, put food in at your own risk. We don't have food thieves per se, but there are people who leave their food in there for extended periods of time, and it hasn't worked out so well. So you're welcome to use that. The listserv, those are messages that I send to you. Please don't ignore my messages. I know that I send a weekly message every week, and some people read it and some people don't. But if you're coming to my office and saying, well, I don't read your mail, then it's going to be hard for me to go over entire emails that I've sent. So please pay attention. I'm going to quickly do career planning. Basically, what we try to encourage is that each student must take responsibility to secure their own employment. We don't have the career personnel within our own department to find everybody a job. When should you begin the job search? Now. Start looking at postings. Start identifying the skills that are necessary. What if you don't know what you want to do? Talk to professors. Talk to other students. And talk to professionals at the Career Resource Center. Other things, evaluating skills, abilities, and training. What do you need for your future? What are you lacking? Resume building and improving communication skills. Getting the most out of your master's. You know, for some of you, Buffalo, New York is a new area, and you know, the U.S. is a new place to be. So getting the most out of it, not just necessarily academics, but also enjoying your surroundings as well. There's a lot of resources at UB because we're a large university and taking advantage of it. Some of you have asked me about jobs within our department. Unfortunately, funding goes just to PhD students. We don't fund master's students in our department. We do have work-study positions available, but you have to have work-study money to do that. If you don't, there's an on-campus job fair and a part-time job fair, if you know the dates, and a lot of people are employed that way. Other job resources, if you go to the libraries, food service, tutoring and computer technology, other ways to find jobs on campus. Getting the most out of it, attending EGSA events, networking, and that was a quick rundown. Just a couple of notes. The Economic Graduate Student Association events, Friday, September 3rd, which is next week, the EGSA barbecue. They'll be hosting also EGSA meeting. We bought a couple of football tickets for September 18th, which we'll tell you more details about. And other ideas include the amusement park and Halloween party. So I kind of read through that pretty quickly, and I apologize. So from here, what we're going to do is, if anybody needs help registering for classes, I will stay right here. If anybody wants to talk to Professor Labert, he's here. Raise your hand if you're a current student in the program. Current students, raise your hands. Okay, if you want to take a look at people, they're there to help you as well. I bought a lot of pizza and wings. Please eat, and thank you for your patience. Oh, also, there's also Wall Street Journal forms up there.